What you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh. What you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Foot Candle Films. Film news and reviews from two guys who really like movies.
This episode is brought to you by the Foot Candle Film Society. For a schedule of upcoming screenings and membership information, visit the Society's website at www.footcandle.org.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Foot Candle Films here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. My name is Alan Jackson. With me is Chris Fry, and we are the co-producers, co-directors, co-founders, co-whatever you want to, the other titles you want to throw in the mix of the Foot Candle Film Festival and the Foot Candle Film Society. Foot Candle Film Festival coming up very, very soon. You'll hear about that a little bit later in the show some more. But this is our podcast where we discuss films and we do our reviews of films and we have a little bit of news discussion about some upcoming films in this episode as well. But Chris, how's it going?
It's going well. I am looking forward to completing our Op and Haunt Barbie reviews because most people did.
Walk me through that. Walk me through that again.
So yeah, we're going to complete our Op and Haunt Barbie. Man, is that's harder to say than Barbenheimer. That's the easy way out because most, we're talking about doing Barbie and Oppenheimer, and we did Oppenheimer. Then we had a review of Haunted Mansion. So this week we're finally getting around to Barbie, which was truly the other movie that people were talking about that was centering around.
We just slid in a Haunted Mansion in the middle.
Yes,
just
to make
break
a much
it up
harder thing to say. Yes.
Well, as Chris so eloquently just explained, we are going to be reviewing the film Barbie today. Barbie obviously did come out the same weekend as Oppenheimer. We talked about Oppenheimer a couple weeks ago, but we did catch up with Barbie and thought we need to give Barbie some due and some time to talk about that movie as well. The latest from writer-director Greta Gerwig, starring Margot Robbie. So we're going to give a review of that film here in just a second, and then afterwards, we thought it'd be good. Kind of we're at a halfway point of the 2023 year, maybe a little past halfway, but we're through what I consider the summer is more or less done. I think there's not really any big summer releases left. So we thought we'd take a few minutes and discuss the rest of 2023 as we've moved past summer, what's coming up in the fall, and definitely come awards time, awards season, and the winter. What's on the docket for 2023? What are the films left to come out? And where's our excitement level on certain titles? So we're going to do a little bit of the remainder of 2023 preview later in the episode. But first, we are going to talk Barbie. Chris, you have your pink jumper on. I noticed, perfect for the review. I'm so glad you came appropriately dressed for this. And we are looking forward to discussing Greta Gerwig's Barbie.
Hey, Barbie. Can I come to your house tonight?
Sure. I don't have anything big planned, just a giant blowout party with all the Barbies and planned choreography and a bespoke song. You should stop by.
So cool.
You can find me under the lights. Diamonds.
After the box office failure of 2016's Max Steel, a superhero film based on a toy action figure, Mattel Playground Productions was closed down. In 2018, the division was revived and reformed as Mattel Films. The first film to be released by this phoenix rising from the celluloid ashes is the live-action filmed version of Barbie, directed by Greta Gerwig, co-written by Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, and starring Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. The film has proved to be more successful than all of its plastic doll-focused predecessors, including such titles as Barbie and the Secret Door, Barbie and Her Sisters in the Great Puppy Adventure, and Barbie Spy Squad.
That's my favorite.
What was your experience with the film, Alan, and what do you think accounts for its success? And more importantly, what song are you more angry that the film got stuck in your head? The Indigo Girls' Closer to Fine or Matchbox 20's Push?
I will admit, I might have been humming Push a little bit late last night after the screening. All right, so the questions you fired at me. You asked, what did I think
Sure.
The movie. Okay, well, first off, I love the movie.
Okay.
I thought the movie was tons of fun. I like many aspects of it, have very few misgivings of it. I think it worked on all the levels I was hoping it would work on and surprised me in a few areas that I didn't expect. I won't say I don't have any weaknesses of the film. There's a couple things I wish the film was a little stronger in that we could talk about a little bit later. But overall, I think it is a really fun, great film. I'm all for any time a film can be creative, inventive, work on both a meta level, and then also have something important to say. And I think this film does all of those things while also being incredibly entertaining and funny, very funny as well. I don't know if it would have worked as well without Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, because I do feel like, they make this film work. The film could possibly work without them in the lead roles, but they just really brought it home with their performances. So I was really impressed on both fronts with what they were tasked to do in this film. The production design, the look and feel of the film, it's just, you do feel like you are in a giant playset for half the film. It's just really a kind of a cool look and a cool environment. And everybody just seemed to be on board with making this film work. So this is going to be a boring review, but I did like this film quite a bit. It got a little sentimental, got a little emotional sometimes in the movies, which was surprising. I was there with, I was true.
Were you dressed in pink, Alan?
I was not. Okay. No, but I was in the minority as far as male-female ratio in the theater. But what I loved looking around seeing is there were just a wide variety of different women in the theater that I feel like we're all getting different things from the movie and all of it good. So if a movie can pull that off and be incredibly entertaining, then kudos to it. So I'm a fan. I liked it. So Chris, my gut feel is I think you're on the same page, but I want to hear you say it for sure to see if you validate or see if I'm wrong.
Right. No, you have perceived correctly. I am a fan of the film. Coming off last week's review of Haunted Mansion, that's an IP. It's a ride that's been with Disney for a long time. They take that and they made a movie. You and I were not that impressed. We thought it had some good things, but overall just not that taken with it. And I think what it lacked was kind of a really unique perspective on the IP, the intellectual property. And that's what I feel like Greta Gerwig was able to do with Barbie. It's like, instead of just making, a comedy that was just a very light comedy that didn't have anything kind of to hook you in, anything deeper.
Right.
It would have been kind of boring and I think kind of hard to do because it just wouldn't have been as interesting. But she kind of took...
But I'm sorry, but even when we hinted at in Haunted Mansion where it felt like they were wanting to get into something, that was where we were starting to get interested and then it just didn't go anywhere. So this movie, no, they totally go. They leaned into it. They lean into it. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And going in, I was thinking that it was going to be kind of like a mashup of the Truman Show and the Lego Movie. Lego Movie being a big IP thing, and they made a movie of it and it was actually good, which surprised me because I was like, why do I want to see a Lego Movie? I saw it, I loved it, and the whole Truman Show aspect because it's something that gets a realization of a world outside that they're familiar with. And actually, I was kind of like, and if I already have that idea in my head, I feel like from the trailers, which I tried to stay away from, but I ended up seeing them, I was going to be kind of bored because I thought, there's nothing, it's like I already kind of get the idea. And I felt like maybe the trailers showed me too much, And so I was like, I was wrong. It is kind of that, but it's a lot more. And something that surprised me was that, like you said, it was funny, which I thought it was capable of being that, but it really kind of does lean into being something a little bit more and talking about, the the big word that's mentioned. I don't think I've ever seen a movie, definitely rated PG-13, that talks about this topic or mentions the word patriarchy quite as much as this film does. And I still found it entertaining. I can see how some people might feel like it's, maybe we're already kind of it wasn't negative for me, but I can see how some people would be like, it's preaching too much. But for me, it wasn't like teaching me anything I didn't already know. So I guess for that reason, it didn't seem as heavy to me.
Well, and I think too, should a film be, in quote, preachy? And that word is even kind of a bad way to describe what films can do.
Right.
But this idea that, okay, should a movie based on a popular character or popular property be, quote, preachy or have messages to say? Well, yes and no, but Barbie kind of just, it sets itself up for it where there has to be a discussion about this.
Sure.
And there's a point in the film, and you know, I think we can talk in generalities about the plot and, you know, without getting too deep on where it goes in the film. But there's a moment in the film where there's kind of an epiphany that the stereotypical Barbie goes through.
Played by Margot Robbie. Confronting a young girl that she's meeting in the real world who basically lays out for her, like, no, this is what Barbie represents to us. Right.
And it's that dichotomy because like earlier in the whole first half of the film, we're just hearing what Barbie means to one segment of people and how it has such positive values to them. But then there's another population that sees it as negative values. And it's like, okay, how do we reconcile all that and make that work? And it involves a little bit of preaching, and it lends itself to this movie and it works. Yes. Is it heavy handed? Yeah, sure. It has some heavy messages to share. It absolutely let you know what its opinions are and its heart's on its sleeve the whole movie. But for a subject matter like Barbie, a doll that for generations has kind of been a little bit of this is the representation of the woman, the girl, the female in our society. Yeah, I think there's a lot to chew on. There's a lot to say, and there's a lot to reconcile with. I'm impressed that, you know, Mattel Films helped make this movie, and Mattel doesn't come off super great in the movie. And I thought that was kind of a bold move. It's like, you know, it's letting Mattel be, I mean, for a good part of the movie, Mattel is a all male run corporation that we see in the film that looks to be trying to stop Barbie from being the kind of character she can be.
But said head of corporation is Will Ferrell. So
right. Yeah, I know. But I mean, and that's even itself a little bit of kind of poking fun at the idea of we're a corporation and we have this doll, and here we are trying to put the doll back in the box and make it, you know, the kind of doll that little girls are going to want, as opposed to a doll that could actually represent, you know, women today. And yeah, it was, I thought it was a little daring and admirable that Mattel Films was like, no, it's okay. We can kind of be a little bit of
take a joke.
We can take a joke. We can be a little bit of the all male dominated corporate office type of thing. And even having some pretty funny jokes about the leadership roles at Mattel over the years. Anyway, it was good. I think, you know, it is the most meta of meta films, and that it is. Which
I mean, I knew they would make winking stuff, but I wasn't aware it was going to get quite as meta as it did. So.
Well, and just so everybody understands a little bit of the plot, you know, of the film, because we kind of just jump right into the review. You know, we have a character in Barbie, and everybody is named Barbie in Barbie world. I mean, all women are Barbies. Barbie Land, and all men are Ken. Well, except for Alan. Alan, I got to admit, being an Alan myself, I felt a little association with Alan throughout the movie. So
played by Michael Cera.
Though Alan is Ken's best friend and just kind of is always just kind of there. Can wear all of Ken's clothes. But Margot Robbie as Barbie, as the stereotypical Barbie. You have Barbie Land, where everybody is a Barbie, but they have different roles as Barbies. But Margot Robbie is the, quote, stereotypical one. And she finds a reason why she actually has to venture to the real world. So they are very clear in letting you know there's a Barbie land and then there's the real world. And the real world as we know it, she has a reason to go there to seek out someone, to find out what might be going on with her and some emotions she's having. And that's where the plot kind of lands to. All the while, also Ken, played by Ryan Gosling, great performance. I think it was just so much fun to watch.
I'm trying to think of a more likable, charming villain doofus that has ever been in film. And I don't think I can really come up with one. Because he's got a very delicate line to walk where you never hate him, but he is kind of the antagonist with a lot of what's going on. But he's so likable and so he's funny.
Yeah. And they have an interesting path with him because
They
Ken, as you know, with Barbie and Ken, is kind of always seen as being with Barbie, and that's played off in the film.
Yeah.
There's a discussion about what it means for the Ken to be in the relation of the Barbie. And Ken's exposure to the real world as he travels with Barbie is very, very different as he sees the real world. Very much the patriarchy, as you said. That's where that word starts to weave in. So he decides that that's more of the pathway he feels like he needs to go. And that's where the conflict in the film kind of comes together for the latter half. So Ryan Gosling's performance, you mentioned it. It is very funny.
Yeah.
You never, like you said, you never hate Ken.
No.
I feel sorry for Ken most of the time because even this film does a great, admirable job of, while 90% of it is dealing with the fact that the role that women play in our society and have played for generations, and the role that men have played, and that again, using that word, the patriarchy, and kind of that. So much of the movie is about that, rightfully so, but it doesn't skirt on the fact that, hey, look, Ken's also been in Barbie's world,
right?
Kind of the second fiddle. He's always been the one that's there only to serve Barbie as well. So they play both sides and they let you see both angles of it. Now, granted, here in the real world, yes, we obviously have a more male-dominated society, but they're also saying, hey, look, even in the toy world, we realize things need to be. There's everybody's got to have their own personality. Everybody's got to have their own character, their own desires, and that's okay. That's good, and we want to foster that. So, I think the film's got some great messages for everybody. It's great. It's good messages for me, even as a male, just to hear and remind myself about the roles that we all need to be playing and should be playing in society. And I think girls can get a lot of inspiration from this and get a lot of, I don't know. It was just, it just worked. It just worked on all those levels.
Well, and I mentioned one of the things for me, I didn't know, I knew the kind of general outlines of the film, but I was like, how is this going to be funny? And, the lights went down and the opening sequence was satirizing 2001: A Space Odyssey. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I'm in. Mm-hmm. Like, it could totally fail after this opening sequence, but their commitment to detail. But it wasn't just, it was laying out kind of the history of Barbie, but doing just like 2001 lays out the history of mankind, like just absolute genius. And I was like won over by that.
Unfortunately, I had seen that in an early teaser trailer. I know.
I'm so glad
It's so disappointing. Because as soon as you saw the sun rising shot, I'm like, okay, yeah, I know I've seen this in a teaser, and I wish I hadn't, because that would have been great.
Yeah, for me, like, I actually got a tear in my eye because I was laughing so much. I was like, and I could appreciate like the shot for shot things there. I was like, oh man, just knocked me over. And something else, and this happens semi late in the film. I won't spoil anything, but for the filmmaker to be able to kind of take a poke, they're poking at Barbie, they're poking at the patriarchy, they're making all these jokes. Later, kind of late in the film, there's a point where the narrator, which is done by Helen Mirren, which is awesome, she has a line that kind of breaks the fourth wall. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's during this crucial sequence when Margot Robbie's like saying something screen, and she makes this joke, and everyone in the theater died, just was like laughing. I'm like, that's awesome to be able to, kind of critiquing Hollywood. Just the whole thing, and it's like, okay, that also very funny. So I was surprised that for a film that was, had a lot of lessons there, it was still able to be very entertaining and very funny. So.
The only joke that they never really kind of rebounded from, and I kept expecting them to, just because I just thought it was a little out of place. It was funny, but a little out of place, has to do with Midge, the pregnant Barbie. There is a pregnant Barbie, and what's clever about the film too is in the end credits you actually see like commercials and ads for the various Barbies that you saw in the film. So they are all based on. I wouldn't
think they were real, but they apparently
are. No, they absolutely are. And Midge is the pregnant Barbie,
which I do remember that.
Oh no, yeah,
briefly.
It was a real thing.
Yeah, I remember the news stuff surrounding
and
it.
And it's played for jokes in the film. It never gets its it never gets a redemption moment of like anything, which I thought was kind of surprising because it's kind of a play for a joke that, oh yeah, we discontinued that one. That freaked people out. So type of thing. But it was funny. It was funny in the midst of the film. It's got a couple musical numbers, which I thought were fun. I thought there's the whole Ken's, is it I'm Just Ken? Is that the name of the song?
That turns into like a big production.
Yeah. When it goes into full stage production, it's actually beautiful. I mean, it's a really well done musical
Which I was not
sequence.
expecting.
No. And it's just a lot of little surprises in the film, a lot of nice touches. I think a appearance by someone late in the film that you come to find out the role they play in Barbie's world was touching and nice, and just the end definitely went for the sentimental route. I think and it worked. I think the ending was good. It's probably, of the whole film, the ending may have been my least favorite, but it's still good.
Interesting.
Yeah, it might have leaned a little too heavy into messages for a bit longer than it needed to. And I felt like those messages had already been kind of really hammered home quite a bit.
Okay.
It just kind of kept piling on the same message, which again, I get it. You want to make sure people walk away with the right things in their head, but it was a little heavy.
I can see what you're saying.
At the very, very end.
I can see what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I might have felt the same way, except for the final line delivered by stereotypical Barbie.
No.
I can't believe Greta Gerwig got away with it.
Yeah.
And that just kind of like, man, it was.
No.
It was
That last little button, and then even the ending credits with all the toys and ads was great. It's the more of the there's an elongated sequence with Barbie having a long dialogue with someone. That's the part where it's like, okay, I think we got it. I mean, I think we all got it, and it just tended to go a little bit longer and a little bit deeper than maybe it needed to. But other than that, I mean, I still enjoyed it. And it was just, of all the parts of the film, that was probably where the tension might have waned just a tear. But otherwise, it was all great.
Well, it's interesting that you kind of point out that part. I haven't, I've heard other reviews about Barbie that have mentioned not that part, but a different part in the film that they felt kind of sidetracked the film a little bit, which I think, they understand the point of it, but they thought it was a little much. But for me, it totally worked.
Which point was that?
And it was the monologue that America Ferrera kind of gives to encourage the Barbies to kind of rally around and go against what Barbie Land has tried to. Mm-hmm. Barbie Land got kind of turned upside down, and so then she has this kind of rallying monologue, and the whole thing, I thought it was really good, and I didn't think it went on too long. And the only thing I could figure is like, wow, I guess, I don't know, who knows what the things are that make somebody be nominated for Best Supporting Actress. But if you can just say, okay, the person had one scene and plays it, like that scene when she gives that monologue, I thought was amazing. I'm like, well, if you can do it just based on that, like, it was so good. And so she's in the rest of the film. She plays a mom in the real world, and she has a daughter who's the daughter that you mentioned was kind of antagonistic towards stereotypical Barbie. But the mom has this chance to kind of say all these things, and just I thought
basically
it was really
speaking for women, everywhere. And there again, I'm looking around the theater while that scene's playing out, and just a lot of people, a lot of head nodding. It's like, yep. That's correct. That is absolutely correct. Everything that's being said on screen. So it's resonating. It's important. And they turned it into a plot point, which was, I think, impressive.
And they were able to, okay, so that they're not really in that monologue. Here's what makes this stand out for me, and why I think it worked ultimately, is they did have a point. That monologue was like, okay, here we are. We're going to just lay it all out there and make this point. But then afterwards, they used comedy to kind of turn the point and like show how they were going to counterbalance all this like inequalities. And they were joking about, for instance, using a guy going on and on about The Godfather.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can we? And one of the females or the Barbie that's with him says, "Can we start this movie over from the beginning and let you talk?
So you can tell me all about it." Yeah, right.
Like those little things. And like, yes, I'm a guy. Yes, I like talking. I'm obviously talking about movies on this podcast, but calling out those things, but making it funny.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of like if you can make a teachable moment funny, that's awesome.
No, it was,
and that's what I think this film is.
It's an incredibly smart script, and I think that ultimately, you can have all the visuals and the performances can be funny and engaging, but it's got to still say something. And the script for this movie absolutely says something and does it in an entertaining way. The idea that we get what could be seen as a very cliche plot of, Barbie goes to real world, and then when she comes back, things have changed and she's got a conflict with this, and turn it into a much bigger discussion about gender politics and the roles we all play and an acceptance level for one another. I don't know. It all just worked. And I was really impressed with how they tied it together, made it an endearing and emotional film while also being one of the funnier movies I've seen in a while too. And I think it was great. I'm a big fan. Big fan of Barbie.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you. The immediate fear, because I'm a dork and a film critic. The immediate fear I have after watching, like you said, the credits, which were entertaining, is but the film ends and I'm like, okay, I really hope this is a one and done, because. But I mean, I understand, as we've talked many times on the show, filmmaking's a business, and it is you put so much money into things, you want them to succeed, and then when they do, the temptation, like, well, instead of gambling, why don't we go for something sure? Yeah. I really hope that this is a one and done. Supposedly Greta Gerwig has said, like, I'm not, things could change, but I'm not interested in doing another film. This is what I want. So I have seen somebody say that what if they do make a sequel, it's all focused on Ken, Noah Baumbach directs that, and Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach co-write it together, but then he writes. Maybe that would make for something interesting, but I don't know. Just don't mess with a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It all depends on what the desire is to make it. If it's all driven by, oh, hey, this thing is making tons of money.
Yeah.
Mattel's like, yeah, let's do another one. Okay, yeah, no. But if there's something else to be said, somebody else has an idea of a way to extend the story and still make it meaningful and make it, I don't know. This is a little bit of magic in a bottle. So I feel like it is. It'd be tough to replicate, I think, for sure. But, yeah, and I mean, can I just say how cool it is and how much I love the fact that if you go to look on this film on like IMDb website, where they list all the cast members and show everybody is listed as Barbie or Ken. I mean, it's seriously, cool. I've got 30 actors here, and it's all Barbie, the women are Barbies. All the guys are Ken, except for Alan, right, by Michael Cera, and except for Midge. Midge is the only one who gets her own name in the credits, like not being a Barbie, which is sad, but. Right. Yeah, no, I think this works on all the levels it needed to work on. I think Margot Robbie is really, really strong in this role. I mean, she's an actress. I feel like I don't think she's had that big.
I, Tanya.
No, I'm saying big starring like blockbuster role where it's like that's where she's been in so many good films, and she's been so good in so many good films. Sure. And I think her Harley Quinn was probably the closest she got to having that universal role where people aren't going to take her seriously.
Right. But yeah, like I can't think of her when I think like Harley Quinn. Like if somebody else were to play it, I'm like, yeah, but Margot Robbie, she's done it. Yeah. So,
but I have had read reports that anytime that she was like headlining a film, the film like kind of underperformed or didn't do as well. So they were worried about whether she could carry an entire film type of thing. Okay. Because even as Harley Quinn, she's great. Like she really helped propel like the Suicide Squad movies.
Right.
But the movie that was, I think, Birds of Prey, which was kind of a little bit more her starring, didn't perform as well. So it's like there was a lot of questions about that. I think this puts it to rest. It's like, no, she can carry a film. She is a strong performer. Yeah, it's great. And then again, tons of love for Ryan Gosling for doing this role. So it was great.
I think it'll be curious to see, which we're going to get to in the news section, whether or not the Academy Awards this year is just going to be the Barbenheimer Academy Awards.
Do you think do you think that this is like Academy Award material? You know, I'm being
Right.
very practical here.
Sure.
Not saying
No,
like whether we want it to be or type of thing, but I mean, do you think this can be?
Well, okay, so because it is not animated, unlike those titles that I joked about in the introduction, those were all like animated. This is live action. So I think things are more, and like Lego Movie was not, it wasn't live action. So I think this is more likely to be taken seriously. And because it does have those points about talking about women's roles and everything, I think there's a chance. Now, some things like you mentioned, the costume design, the production design, all that, I don't see how that cannot be nominated.
I think production design has got to be
now,
in the mix on that for
acting
sure.
wise, I mean, it's hard to say the field, but my biggest question is, would Gosling be supporting or would he be actor?
It'd be supporting.
You think he would be?
It'd have to be supporting, I would think.
Yeah.
I think you really only have one lead
And that's Margot
actress,
Robbie.
and that's Margot
Okay,
Robbie.
fair enough.
Everybody else, I think, is supporting. And look, I love everybody's performance here. I think
Sure.
Robbie and Gosling are the only two that really have a chance of getting recognition.
See,
I
don't know that they could win because going up, if you take the two films, like Barbenheimer, if you take Oppenheimer, it's tough to,
Yeah.
it's because the material, it's tough to see that, but just,
I hope this squeaks in the field of Best Picture nominations.
Or
If they go up to like 9 or 10, like they have been, I think that's got a chance of being in there.
and it could adapted screenplay because they're taking an
The
existing
screenplay.
property. Yeah, I would think screenplay.
I think
could definitely
screenplay,
get
production design, nomination for Best Picture. I don't expect it to win Best Picture, but it could be in the mix. And I'd love to see both Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling at least in the field for acting.
Or do you just want to see him? What's the song? The Ken song?
I'm Just Ken? Is that the
Just
name?
Ken, yeah.
Mhm.
To see Ryan Gosling perform that for Best Original Song.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. I did have to read a little article too about how the front man for
Matchbox 20.
Matchbox 20 got contacted about how supposedly
I've always wondered about stuff like that.
well,
because
supposedly
it's
Greta Gerwig reached out to him directly, asking to
It's like
be able to use this.
Mr. Thomas.
Yeah. And supposedly they were, because for those who haven't seen the film and still listening to this, Ryan Gosling does do a rendition of the song Push by Matchbox 20. As you come to find out, is one of his favorite songs, which is played for a joke.
Yep.
Because the idea is that Ken is not supposed to have the best taste in music or style at that point.
Right.
But supposedly the lead singer of Matchbox 20 was okay with it because he thought the rendition that Ken gave in the film was actually a little more heartfelt than he would have expected it to be, and a little more. There was some real meaning behind the performance, so whether we take that or not. But it was still very funny.
Right.
It was used well in the film.
And I mean, I guess to the benefit of Matchbox 20, like I said, that song, I had not thought about that song in a long time, and it was definitely stuck in my head. So,
yeah. And then you mentioned the Indigo Girls, Closer to Fire, and that became like kind of the little bit of the rallying mantra in the film in several points. So yeah, it was good. No, I'm very, very happy with this film. Cool. Very, very happy. Wasn't there a version of Barbie that was supposed to be taking place like years ago, production wise, with
Amy Schumer?
Amy Schumer.
There was, yeah.
But that didn't involve Greta Gerwig at all. That was like a whole different take.
It was somebody else that was going to direct it. Yeah. And then she stepped away and things. Typical Hollywood. Like I said, they originally announced in 2018 that this was going to be Barbie, and we're now in 2023.
5 years
so
later.
it's taken this long time.
Well, I think they found the right chemistry, the right magic for it. So I'm all for Hollywood taking its time if it means you get a good product at the end of the day. So
absolutely.
This was a lot of fun. Good movie. That is Barbie, and we are both pretty high on it. Big fans of the film. It is playing. I mean, look,
everywhere.
I went on a Thursday night, and my theater was sold out, like basically sold out. When I grabbed my tickets, they were like only two in a pair left.
Okay.
And it's a small theater, but still, I mean, still, it's a Thursday evening. It's,
Right.
during the week. And I was surprised at the crowd. So this thing's got a lot of legs. It's going to be around for a while. So, all right. That is Barbie by Greta Gerwig, starring Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling. We are fans. We recommend checking it out. Don't let any preconceived stigmas get in your way. There's something to be had for everybody. This is a fun movie. So, all right, Chris, let's take a quick little break. And when we come back, we're going to do our preview of the remainder of 2023. What movies are still in the hopper to be coming out this year? Now, Greg, there may be some shifts. We'll talk about those scheduling wise, but what are the highlights for the rest of the year that we want to keep our eye on? That's coming up here in just a moment. Stay tuned. You're listening to Foot Candle Films here on The Mesh. We'll be right back.
This podcast is sponsored by Jackson Creative, a custom communication agency located in downtown Hickory, North Carolina, specializing in online content creation. To learn more, visit thejacksoncreative.com. Jackson Creative, we tell your story.
Welcome back to Foot Candle Films here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. We had our very positive review of the film Barbie earlier in this episode. Yes, Chris and I both loved it and recommend everybody go out and see it. Good times at the movies for sure. So let's turn our attention now to what's coming up the rest of the year, Chris. We are at as of the recording of this, it's in the later part of July. I think we're pretty much done with the summer as far as movies go. From what I can tell, looking at the schedule, I mean, I know summer technically goes until like September on a calendar basis or so. There's not that many new movies or big movies coming out the rest of like August or so.
Sure.
So we're really starting to turn our attention more towards looking at films between now and December. And of course, as you get closer to the end of the year, the general theory is that those are the films that are going more for award acclaim and nominations in the year. Right. I would argue with that a little bit. I don't think that's quite as cut and dry as it was in years past. I think, with streaming schedules and release schedules and different studio players, I think award contention is a little broader than just that October, November, December timeframe. But still, that's probably where we're going to get a majority of our nominated films. So let's do this, Chris. Let's kind of hit the highlights of films. I'm going to kind of throw out some months and a few of the films coming out those months.
Okay.
That are still kind of on the radar, some bigger films or films that might be ones worth attention to pay attention to as we go forward, and just get some quick reactions to how we're feeling about the rest of the year 2023. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and say for August, which is just a few days away at the time of this recording, August 2023. Really the big films in August. We do have The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which is a new vampire Dracula movie. I'm excited about it, but I also feel like it could be garbage. I don't know. Sure. It's hard to say. I'm intrigued by the premise, the early type of vampire Dracula on the boat of the Demeter on his way to, I believe it's to America. Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
So it looks like the whole movie takes place on a boat. I'm kind of excited about that premise. Yeah, I like that a lot. Sure. So we'll see. But again, it could be trash too. We'll see. Last Voyage of the Demeter, Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that? You've seen the trailer, I'm sure, a few times because I know it's been in front of the movies I've seen too. So
and it'd be one thing if it was just a Gran Turismo movie, which Gran Turismo, my understanding, is a video game.
It is.
Okay. So
the car racing video game.
If they were just making that, I would have absolutely no interest. But the one thing that I'm like, oh, well, that is interesting, is the premise of the movie is not just making a movie about a video game, but the thing that apparently happened in real life, where they took some people who were young people who were really skilled at actually driving the video game and made them real world race car drivers. Okay. Yeah. I was not aware that had happened. That is interesting. So could that be an interesting movie? Maybe.
Well, I mean, and it does. I think we've mentioned this before. Neil Blomkamp is the director.
District 9.
District 9, which I did see a kind of a funny meme somebody put up online. The fact that every movie Neil Blomkamp has made, the trailer or teaser or marketing for it always says from the director of District 9.
Not Chappie.
Doesn't matter what other film. Like he's done 5 films since then.
Right.
Every film has been from the director of District 9
9.
because that seems to be the only movie that actually worked for anybody and that was successful. So it's Neil Blomkamp, which is at least interesting.
Yeah.
It does have David Harbour in it, who I really like.
Yeah.
Orlando Bloom's in it. I mean, and I like the fact that it's based on a real story. So who knows?
Yeah, because if it was just the thing about the video game, I think you're the same thing. You wouldn't care. But it's
as
like,
soon as
okay.
you realize it's a true story, I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm at least curious. Sure. I want to hear some early reviews from people who get a chance to see it and if there's anything worth checking out on that or not. Also, Blue Beetle is the next DC movie coming out in August.
I feel so bad for Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
And I have not seen it yet, but I did. It was one of, I'm sure you're the same way. Mm-hmm. Barbie had like what felt like 50 previews before it. This was one of them. And we've talked about collective superhero burnout.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like everyone in the theater kind of groaned. I saw people looking at their watches when the Blue Beetle preview came on, and it's like, yeah, I just, regardless of how good it may be, I feel bad for it because I feel like it's just...
Well, it's coming at a horrible time because, I mean, Flash bombed.
Right.
That's got all in the news. People knew how bad that movie tanked at the box office.
Which I'm on record as saying I
mean, you liked it. I thought it was okay, but I don't think it deserved the bashing it got for sure. And then, you know, they've already said that, you know, DC is going in a whole nother direction with this movie. So this is kind of like a little leftover film in a way, possibly. I don't know. And then relatively unknowns in it, which I'm all for. I think is great, but unfortunately it's not going to help it out in the box office, you know. It does seem to be a Latino family, which I think is awesome. And that is true to this recent version of the character in the comic books, which is great. But I just don't know if it's going to create a draw. So yeah, I feel bad for it too.
I feel bad for it. Something that I will say does make me kind of interested in it is Susan Sarandon plays a villain.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
I didn't know that until I saw the trailer just last night on that. So it was interesting.
So
the forecast for Blue Beetle are already incredibly low.
Okay.
Like they're saying it's going to be like very little money made opening weekend. They're already projecting. Gotcha. So if it does anything better than that, it may actually be kind of considered a little bit of a success. So that's kind of the ones in August that we've got coming out, big ones.
Okay.
We get into September. Did you know Denzel Washington's making another Equalizer movie?
This is the third one, right?
Yes. And my follow-up question, have you seen any of the Denzel Washington Equalizer movies?
No, but
Yeah, I haven't
apparently
either.
the franchise does have its fans.
Okay.
So now I had heard that he was making a third one, and unfortunately I can't really get excited about it. But
Yeah, I love Denzel Washington.
too.
But I never got interested in the first one, and I haven't really seen or heard enough about follow-ups to make me feel interested in them. I could be wrong. It could be one of those franchises where it was like, yeah, it's actually good, entertaining action movies. But haven't got into it. I've heard very, very little about this film. It's supposed to be coming out September 1. But
oh wow, so pretty soon.
Pretty soon. I haven't seen anything else from it. A Haunting in Venice is coming out in mid-September. That's the new Kenneth Branagh, Hercule Poirot series of the Agatha Christie book adaptations.
Now I will say, I thought the trailer was kind of cool.
I did too. I think going with definitely more of a supernatural, a little creepier, scarier aspect to the story. Obviously, it deals with ghosts. I mean, it's kind of the idea of a ghost. It's got an interesting cast behind it. I think Tina Fey's in this. I mean, some other people I wouldn't have expected. It looks good. I was not a fan of the Murder of the Orient Express, the first one of this series that Kenneth Branagh did. I thought it was pretty dull.
Did you see Death on the Nile?
I did not.
See,
no.
I did, and I'm not a fan of either one of them.
Okay.
So.
I haven't been a fan of what he's done with it. It just seems like a very paint by numbers, very simple. What bothered me the most with that first Orient Express movie is I felt like the mystery was not something based on the film that you could have ever possibly figured out. It's like It was so convoluted. There's just no way that a human could watch this movie and think, oh, maybe I think I can figure out. And that's the fun of a mystery movie is it's got to be something that you could figure out if you paid attention to everything and saw.
Right.
I don't know if that's going to continue with this version or not, but at least the trailers and the way it's shown look more interesting. So I'm curious about that. Outside of that, The Expendables have a fourth movie coming out. Never seen any of those.
I haven't either.
Yeah. No.
So it's action, kind of a comedy too, right? Because
I think it's one of those actions where everybody's
wink.
saying catchphrases and funny things to each other. But yeah.
Right.
We have another Saw movie coming out, Saw 10.
I thought we were finally done with that.
I think because if you remember, Chris Rock tried to do kind of
Spiral. Yeah,
he did a little bit of like a revisionist kind of version of it, and I don't think that hit for anybody at all. So I think they said, no, we'll just go back to the franchise. So we've got Saw 10 coming out. Now, the only film I do think is interesting in September that I'm curious about is The Creator, and that is the film. It is by Gareth Edwards.
Okay.
It is a science fiction film. It's starring John David Washington, Gemma Chan, Allison Janney. It is, I think, from what we see from the trailer, it is a guy having to kind of rescue a human robot messiah kid who could hold the key to the world's future. It was a big high concept movie.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But it looks good. I like John David Washington quite a bit.
Yeah.
I like Gareth Edwards as a director. So I am optimistic on this one. It getting a September release is not the most reassuring
doesn't bode
release.
well.
No, because if it was high confidence, you put it out in summer. September's kind of a dump month for things. So I don't know. I don't know how The Creator is going to be, but I am, of the ones I've mentioned in September, that's the one I would kind of gravitate to. What I am seeing, though, Chris, is that we have very few things to review in the month of September that we are going to be excited about reviewing.
Well, maybe we'll just do an Equalizer build-up. We'll watch
We
the
got to go
first
back
one,
and revisit the
watch second
Equalizer
one.
series.
Yeah.
There's also The Nun 2, which I didn't know The Nun was now a franchise, but there is.
That's a spinoff of something as well, right?
I don't think so.
It's
I think
not a
The Nun
spinoff
was
of like
by
Insidious or
maybe
something.
It was, or The Conjuring or
Conjuring,
something.
that's what it is, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It is.
Okay.
So The Nun 2, yeah, we got Expendables 4, Saw 10, The Equalizer 3, and The Nun 2. Wow. That's our September. The only two movies I think we've seen that we have some passing interest in, possibly Haunting in Venice and The Creator.
Yeah.
So that's our two in September.
Okay.
Then we get to October, and things don't look much better at this point. We have Kraven the Hunter.
Oh.
Yeah, which not interested.
I think that will be the nadir of Marvel. Is that an official Marvel movie? It's
It's a
Sony still.
This is a Sony movie.
Okay.
Yeah. Very much a Sony. I mean, it's
In the Marvel universe,
It's a
but,
partnership with Marvel.
Sure.
Marvel's logo is going to slap up on the screen for a few seconds, but it is a Sony picture. So we will not confuse the two.
Sure.
That's coming out October 6th. Not interested from what I've seen. I thought the trailer was very, thought the trailer just didn't have a lot going for it. The concept, everything, I'm not interested. We have a new Exorcist movie, The Exorcist Believer, coming out October 13th.
Okay, but
David Gordon Green
here we
is the
go.
director of this. Now,
Right.
David Gordon Green, who did the last 2 or 3 Halloween movies,
right.
the new trilogy on that. So what's your thoughts on this, Chris? This is interesting.
Okay. I like David Gordon Green as a director, regardless of opinions on his independent films. Some of the Halloween movies worked better for me than others, but overall, I like what he's doing. I like what I see when I watch his films. Demonic possession, like I'll go see almost anything. When you and I review horror movies, demonic possession stuff is just something that I've never really cared for. Basically, I think because it kind of freaks me out or something. Like, I don't know, which I get is obviously the point. I have seen the original Exorcist, but the only thing that will get me in the theater to see this is the fact that David Gordon Green is directing it. But in difference to the Halloween movies, which I went out and saw them opening weekend, I will probably wait to hear if this is good, because I just really hesitate about demonic possession stuff.
Well, and it does not look like David Gordon Green is writing this in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, then that makes me even less
Peter
interested.
Sattler, Scott Teems are credited as writers, as well as William Peter Blatty, who is the
did
original,
the original,
author.
right.
I think it's just based on his work. So
Is it Do we know, is it a retelling of the first one, or is it just kind of like a next chapter type thing, like a sequel type thing? Or is it, would you say it was a new beginning? So that makes it...
I mean, that's what they're crediting it as. I'm
Okay.
looking right now to see. So basically the synopsis for this, let's dig into this just for a second.
Okay.
It is considered a sequel to the 1973 film
Okay.
about a 12-year-old girl who's possessed by a mysterious demonic entity, forcing her mother to seek the help of two priests to save her.
Okay.
So, sequel to the original one,
But are they ignoring all the other ones? Maybe?
which is basically what he did with the Halloween franchise too. You know, same thing. It's like, okay, this is a sequel to the original one. We're kind of
Gotcha.
discounting all the other ones happening.
Okay.
That seems to be what they're saying as far as everything. Ellen Burstyn is in the film,
Okay.
and she was in the original 1973 Exorcist.
Okay.
So I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe. It's been so long since I saw the original Exorcist. I do remember going to see Exorcist 3 in the movie theater while I was in college.
Oh, wow.
On a double date, that was not well advised. And only thing I can remember about that movie, the only thing I can remember about Exorcist 3 is still one of the scariest moments.
Is it in the hospital or something?
Yes.
Okay.
The hospital, the white kind of ghost nurse kind of, yeah, that still terrifies me whenever I see it. So,
See, I haven't even seen that film, but I know that there's a scene.
I mean, that's the only scene I remember of the entire movie.
Got you.
I don't think there's anything else to it, but that one shot, that one quick, oh my gosh. Okay, so pencil me in for curious.
Okay.
But like you, I'm not rushing out to see this unless I hear that there's something to it.
Got you.
I got to hear somebody tell me, yeah, there's something there, something decent and good. Now, I would be saying that October is going to be our month for Dune Part 2, but as we mentioned, I think maybe last week or 2 weeks ago for our news, there have been some delays because of the writers and actors strikes.
Right.
Actors, even though this movie's done, or at least in final post-production, so actors and writers are not involved anymore, but it's the promotion of the film that's going to get hampered if actors don't go out and do promotion for it, which they can't when they're on strike. So Dune Part 2 was slated for October 19th. May not be happening though. So if that doesn't happen, Chris, October is trash.
Here's kind of a just theoretical question, and I guess I can't second guess studios because they've been doing this for a long time and they know better than silly old me. For something like Dune 2, do you think it really makes a difference if they have them go on? Like, they've already got the promotion engine of the first film, and it did well.
Yeah.
And
I
they
think
already
they do a
have
little
previews
bit.
in theaters, and like, so you really think them
I
not being
think
able
so.
to go on not David Letterman, but not being able to go on the Daily Show?
I
or
think
not being
so, just because there was a little bit more of a gap between part 1 and part 2
Okay,
than most
okay.
movies are trying to do now that are back to back parts 1 and parts 2.
Right.
You've got two kind of hot stars in it with Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya, both ones that, get out on the red carpet and get some people's attention.
Sure.
I don't know. I kind of feel like, I think they're needing that promotion push a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll see. We'll see if they make that call or not. But right now it's tentatively slated for October, but we'll see if it ends up holding or delaying based on the strikes. That's it for October.
Okay.
We get into November. And okay, the movies step up a little bit in November. This is where we start to see some of the bigger movies coming in.
Okay.
We have the next Marvel movie, Captain Marvel 2, which is being called The Marvels. I think we talked about this in passing as well. This is going to be a hard sell for Marvel. I think Marvel's got to really pick up their game on quality and the storytelling they're doing. Nothing's given me much confidence about this. Seeing the trailers, seeing the premise, seeing the concept, I'm not seeing a big audience for this. I'd like to be wrong though, but we'll see. It'll be November 10th for Captain Marvel 2 / The Marvels.
Gotcha.
Now, the one in November, one of two films in November, I think I'm very excited for. We do have David Fincher's new film, The Killer.
Okay. Michael Fassbender. Right?
Michael Fassbender, Tilda Swinton,
Oh.
in a 2.5-hour action movie called The Killer. And this is, I think, it's showing in the Toronto Film Festival. I think it's getting a big splash there. Word is good. It is David Fincher. It is David Fincher with Michael Fassbender. Fassbender we really haven't seen do a lot lately. So I'm excited. I'm very excited. I think this is going to be good.
So I wonder if the thinking with that is because it's at a film festival, even though stars may not be able to promote it, it'll get the hype of being at a film festival. So they're okay with releasing it. Maybe.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, I do think a film like The Killer doesn't need the red carpet as much. Because I think just like people with Oppenheimer, okay, it's Christopher Nolan. People go to the Christopher Nolan movie. Killer, people are going to go to a David Fincher movie. They just are. Right. I just think there are enough film fans out there that's like, they know a David Fincher movie doesn't come around every day. And just about without exception, the movies are always high caliber, really good movies.
Got you.
I do think Michael Fassbender is due for a little bit of a resurgence to kind of get back in the game on highly acclaimed films, because he did kind of wane for a while. He had some misfires. He got bogged down, I think, with the X-Men movies and some other stuff, and just haven't really seen him do a really good movie in a while. So this could be it for him coming back. But also in the same month, Michael Fassbender also has another movie coming out, The Next Goal Wins, which is a Taika Waititi movie. Directed.
Also based on a true story?
Based on a true story. Okay. It is a movie about soccer.
Okay.
The trailer, I think, is funny. It could be very formulaic, but it looks fun. It is Taika Waititi's written and directed it with Michael Fassbender and Elizabeth Moss. So that's coming out November 17th. Kind of surprising that, The Killer slated for November 10th, although The Killer could be coming out in limited release initially and then go wide later in November. But Next Goal Wins. I don't know if that's going to be a wide release film or if that's going to stay somewhat limited in its scope.
Right.
But honestly, those are two I'm interested in. And then the third one that I think is going to be the big film in November is Napoleon.
Okay.
That is the Ridley Scott starring Joaquin Phoenix as the titular Napoleon Bonaparte. It is an Apple Studios movie, but it is releasing in theaters first. But I think the plan is to have it go to Apple TV Plus within a relatively shorter window of time.
Sure.
But it is going to be in theaters only initially.
Okay.
So of those, Chris, The Killer, Next Goal Wins, and Napoleon, kind of where's your interest level at this point? I don't even throw Captain Marvel in there, even though I know you're not terribly excited.
Yeah, I wish I could be, but like I kind of alluded to with Blue Beetle, I'm kind of burned out on comic book stuff, so that would be the lowest one I'm interested in. Between the other three, probably a battle between Napoleon and The Killer, because actually I'll say, because a lot of times historical dramas are not my favorite niche, but I do like Joaquin Phoenix. And I really do like Ridley Scott, but I haven't seen a Fincher film in a while. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen Fassbender in a while.
Well, the last Fincher film was what, Mank?
I do not remember or was it, yeah, maybe.
I think it was Mank. Hold on, right. Our intern is running down the hall to give me notes on this. So hold tight. I'll be able to tell you.
He did Mindhunter on Netflix, but then movie-wise, I think Mank.
Yeah, it was Mank.
Okay.
Mank. Yeah, he did Mindhunter on TV. That was actually a little bit before Mank.
Sure.
He did an episode of Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix, a TV series. But as far as movies go, yeah, it was. He had done Gone Girl in 2014, and then he did Mank in 2020. So that was 6 years between movies.
Right.
Coming up to Mank, and now we're at 3, almost 4 years between this and The Killer. So yeah. So which one did you say you're most interested in?
I would probably say The Killer.
Okay, yeah, that's where I am too. I love Fassbender. I like Fincher when he's on his game. This seems like right up Fincher's alley. This
it does.
Concept and story. So let's do it. Now I didn't mention two films also in November. We do have a Hunger Games prequel, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Might tie for the longest title. Also, all it needs is a part 1, and it would definitely win that. That is coming up November 17th, and also Disney's film Wish, which is an animated film. Is coming out November 22nd as well.
Okay.
Don't know much about Wish. Don't know very little about the Hunger Games prequel.
The Hunger Games prequel, the only thing that gives me any I loved the books. Well, the first two books, which is actually kind of how I felt. The first movie I really liked, Catching Fire, it was okay, and then Mockingbird just kind of crashed and burned. They split it up into two movies. Which the only thing that gives me any hope for this is that the writer Suzanne Meyer did actually write the book.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So they are basing it off a prequel book that she wrote. If they just came up with the idea, we're going to do a prequel, and they just made the movie, probably wouldn't be very concerned about it. I still am not looking forward to seeing it, but I have a little glimmer of hope because she bothered to write. She wrote a book, and then they said, okay, now we're going to turn it into a movie. So I don't know. I'll be curious. Probably be like the Exorcist movie. I'll probably kind of do a wait and see approach.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's one more movie I forgot to mention.
Okay.
So Trolls Band Together is coming out November 17th.
And that was one of the 5,432 trailers we saw before Barbie.
Yeah, it was.
And okay, if we had people looking at their watch during the Blue Beetle, people were like actively getting cranky during the Trolls Band Together thing.
But what was funny, I mean, you saw the same batch of trailers, I'm sure I did. So we had the Trolls trailer, and then wasn't there like a rated R movie trailer also like right next to it that was like, I thought, completely on the other end of the spectrum and just kind of very polarizing for the audience and the crowd.
There was something like that.
What was it?
I can't remember. But I think you're right, because it's a PG-13 film, Barbie.
Right, so we can show R or PG
Right,
movie previews, but it was a weird dichotomy. It was like, here's the trolls and they're singing and it's all family and happy, and then there's one that was like, oh wow, this one's a little edgier. This one's a little more adult. So
yeah, I have to look that up.
Okay, so that's November. So November, we've actually got some decent films coming out, some things of interest for sure.
Okay.
Then we get to December. And December is slated right now, even though these are all also subject to change.
Sure.
Supposed to be Wonka, which we showed the trailer for that in the last couple of episodes.
And which we agree could be the holiday movie if they don't bump it. But
could be.
Yeah.
So it's slated right now December 15th. We will see.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and say that I think the rest of these are not happening because Ghostbusters is supposed to have an Afterlife sequel coming out in December, but there's been nothing mentioned about this.
Yeah, I think
so. It's not happening. It was slated for December 20th. That's not going to happen. There's supposed to be a fourth Star Trek movie. That is not happening because nothing has been said with that.
Oh, still using the... Okay.
Yep. Huh. Zack Snyder is supposed to have his Rebel Moon movie, his big sci-fi epic.
Now and that's done, but you're saying you don't think it's going to come out.
I mean, it's July. We haven't seen anything about it. I mean, by July.
Is it a theatrical release or
yeah,
Netflix?
I think so. That's a good question.
Because I know he did one for Netflix that was like zombies. I can't remember what the name of it was, but
yeah, I know he did some on Netflix there. I don't know if Rebel Moon. Oh, no, it's going to be a standalone Netflix film.
Okay.
So it could still push out in December.
Because Netflix, I guess
don't know
Netflix doesn't care about.
They don't push it maybe
premieres
this
and all that
early.
kind of stuff.
Yeah. So that still could be happening, but again, we've heard very little. I don't know for sure if that's happening.
Okay.
Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is supposed to be Christmas Day of December, and I think that one's also rumored to possibly be being bumped. So I don't know. December's a little weird. There's just not a lot else there that we know for sure is going to happen. I think these strikes are really going to dictate in the next month or so whether we're going to have a dearth of movies in December or not. Even November. I mean, I think Napoleon's going to happen. I feel pretty strong about that in November. I think The Killer will still happen. Whether Marvel bumps its movie in November, I don't know. It's good questions all the way around. Now, what I haven't mentioned is October going back, and I don't know why it's not on this list that I've been reviewing, but I know we got Flowers of the Killer Moon coming out. That is going to theaters, and then shortly afterwards will be Apple TV Plus. I think same idea as Napoleon.
Okay,
and that's of course the new Scorsese film coming out with Leonardo DiCaprio. But let me look and see if there's any other films I'm missing, because I feel like that list I was just using was a little lighter.
Apple TV Plus is going to have two huge films gunning for Oscar. I mean, Napoleon and The Killer. I'm assuming those. I mean, both by big directors.
Yeah.
It's.
Let me throw out just a couple
Killer,
more.
Killers of the Flower Moon. Sorry.
Yeah.
Killers David Fincher.
Let me throw out just a couple more that should have mentioned.
Sure.
the list I was looking at was not the most complete list of films. So I'm just going to hit a couple more quick ones. In September, we do have the film Poor Things, the Yorgos Lanthimos film.
Now, I'd heard rumors that might get booted.
And it very well may have,
Okay.
which may be why it wasn't on the other list I was looking at.
I am.
It was slated for September 8th, but that may not be
Yorgos
happening.
Lanthimos. Yeah, I'm into his movies.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Challengers is also supposed to be September 15th. We showed the trailer for that a couple weeks ago. I'm excited for that film. It's still getting previews. Oh yeah, Challengers. Was
That's
the
what it
one.
was.
That was the
Before-
film that like right after the Trolls trailer. It was like
Definitely more adult.
Okay, yeah, definitely an interesting more film. Challengers, I'm excited about. I want to see that, and that's slated right now for September 15th. Okay.
Okay.
October, we covered all of those except for Killers of the Flower Moon. Sorry, October 20th in theaters. That one, of course, it's going to be a big deal. That one's going to be a big deal, I think. November, we mentioned Dune, we mentioned Marvels, we mentioned The Killer's on Netflix.
Really?
Is it not getting a theatrical release?
Surely it is. So you're saying Killers of the Flower Moon and Napoleon are both on Apple TV Plus, and you're saying The Killer by David Fincher is going to be on Netflix.
Yes.
There's no way they're not going to do a theatrical release for that. I mean, maybe
Listeners, hold tight. I'm researching this as we speak.
because
I'm
I will
very
say,
curious.
Yeah, I will say something that's been discussed. Granted, this is for Best Picture starting in 2025. Is that they're going to require an expanded theatrical run to qualify for Best Picture now. It won't be the case in 2024, which is when these films will be, but like supposedly that is, you can't just do going straight to Netflix or only like a week in a theater. You have to do an expanded theatrical run. So what have you found out?
So The Killer,
Yes.
starring Michael Fassbender and Tilda Swinton, is going to Netflix November 2023.
Okay.
It is playing at the Venice Film Festival, premiering there,
Okay.
but it will actually be released on Netflix.
Okay,
in
so
November.
that rule about Best Picture qualification hasn't started yet, so I guess that's why they're not doing it, because they don't have to.
I guess, yeah.
Huh, interesting.
And then in December, I'm looking to see if there was anything else missing. No, we didn't. Yeah, Rebel Moon is also a Netflix movie. That is the Zack Snyder
Zack
one.
Snyder.
So Netflix has got a couple big movies that are going to be straight to Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
That's The Killer and then Rebel Moon. Apple TV Plus has two big movies, but they are releasing them in theaters first for a few weeks and then going to their streaming service.
Right.
And then we don't know about release dates for sure of Aquaman or Wonka. Some of those are possibly moving. One that I didn't mention in December, I'm seeing now that I definitely want to mention is The Color Purple. So we do have the new
musical
version of The Color Purple coming, produced by Oprah Winfrey on December 25th as well. So that is the year remaining.
Okay.
Now, Chris, just really quick, I know we went maybe a little long on this, but it's good catch up. It's good for me to plot out my film going schedule for the rest of
Sure.
the year.
Sure.
Of the films we've talked about, what are the ones that could be talked about in your prediction come Academy Award time from this latter half of the
Assuming
year?
they're going to be released. and all that.
Assuming they're the ones are released that we talked about.
So I would think Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yes.
The Killer, and then Napoleon. I
Yep.
think that, and if it's released, The Color Purple.
Yeah, I think The Color Purple could be one too. I mean, we saw the trailer for the first time. I did anyway last night. It looks good. I mean, it looks like it could be a really good film. So I'm excited to see that. Yeah, I'm kind of with you on those. Those are the ones I would say are the ones I could see rising to the top as well. I mean, Dune, I think is obviously if it gets released this year for a lot of visual effects and other awards there. It did not get nominated for any of the bigger awards. Didn't get any acting awards. Didn't get any Best Picture awards. I think it was nominated cinematography, possibly, but definitely like visual effects, production design, and all that.
Right.
Yeah, but you know what, Chris? I mean, you mentioned 3 films, and you're right. That's the 3 films I think that could get some buzz. And then you look from the first half of the year, we got Oppenheimer, and we got Barbie. Mm-hmm. Is there any? I mean, has there been anything else? Spider-Verse.
Well, yeah.
Across the
animated
Spider-Verse,
films,
obviously,
right.
animation will get some, but I think it could get some love beyond that too. But really, there's not a lot else, right?
I mean,
am I wrong?
Depending on your thoughts on Asteroid City, which we did review here on the show.
I just don't think it's going to get any kind of credit or love.
Right.
There's nothing.
Right.
I mean, really, it's Oppenheimer, Barbie, then, possibly, and again, we're speculating on The Killer,
Right.
Killers of the Flower Moon,
Napoleon. Yeah.
And assuming that those will be ones that will get some Oscar buzz, but we don't know.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of weird.
It will be.
Kind of weird. But I'm actually a little intrigued that they all seem to be bigger movies that could get some good box office numbers to be Oscar nominated films. What about, were there any independent films, like smaller films that are kind of in that Oscar buzz territory right now too? I know Past Lives has kind of been a critical darling
right.
for a good part of the year. It gets a official wider release, I think, in August. But are there other ones?
Not that I'm aware of. But yeah, Past Lives is one that I've heard a lot. It's kind of like this year's After Sun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right.
So,
all right. Well, that'll make it interesting. I'm curious about the rest of the year now. See how things shape up. And of course, all that's possibly in flux because if studios can't promote the films effectively, they don't want to release it and not maximize the box office return for it. So, these strikes could have much, much greater implications. There are already big implications for obviously people in those careers.
Absolutely.
But it has a spillover implication on the movie going public, and that not just films are being stopped being made, but films are maybe not even going to be released because of lack of promotion by the actors. So,
right.
Okay. Well, I think that wraps up our 2023 preview so far. Handful of films excited about, handful I'm looking forward to. Looks like I've got a reason to keep my Netflix subscription going for at least a few more months.
There you go.
So yes, if you have any feedback for us or maybe films we forgot to mention on the 2023 preview, or you saw Barbie and you want to echo any of our thoughts or have any contrary thoughts, we'd love to hear those as well. Chris, how do they go about doing that with us?
You can send an email to info@footcandle.org. You can follow us on Twitter @FootCandleFilm. We are on Facebook, Foot Candle Film Society. We're on Instagram and Threads at just Foot Candle Film. Al and I are also on Letterboxd, where we try to track what we're seeing and leave quick takes. If you would like to be on Blue Sky, I am on Blue Sky. I have a giveaway code. I can give a code away. So just email to info@footcandle.org and I can send that to you. And then you can jump on Blue Sky if you care to be on there. Do us a favor. If you like the show, give us a star rating, write a review, share with friends or whatever service you receive your favorite podcasts on, because it'll help us reach new listeners. We would appreciate it. And ladies and gentlemen, the lineup for the 2023 Foot Candle Film Festival is now online. The festival will be September 15th through the 24th. You can go online now at footcandlefilmfestival.com and see the lineup for the different films we have coming. We're really excited about it. We think it'll be a lot of fun. If you're going to be in Western North Carolina, we encourage you to come on out to the festival. We think you'll have a good time.
It will be a very good time. So please come join us in September for the festival. We've got some great films selected to screen and some great events. So it'll be a great time. FootCandleFilmFestival.com, as Chris mentioned, is where you go to get tickets, see the schedule, make your plans to come visit. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up today's show then. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we will look forward to talking to everybody next time. Take care.
See you in the ticket line.
Watch films in the company of like-minded people in the dark. Watch films in the underground. We won't let anyone know where you are. The films that don't make it to Carmike at the mall, or ones that were famous when Grandpa would watch films out of the reverence of the heritage of an art. Watch films through the courtesy of Foot Candle Film Society.
Special thanks to Carpal Tuller for the show theme music. For more about Carpal Tuller, visit www.carpaltuller.com. You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.